What is your sense about AI at the moment? Overhyped, underhyped?
Are we overhyping it? Of course we are. But so what? It needs to be because there is all this potential.
You've done 5 startups. Now you're tackling, I think, a big behemoth. The old daily report.
Everyone I talked to, they have a story how they had to do a daily report. And it's never a good one. I think the key is he's not changing what he's recording for the app. So that is the technology leap that was not there before. If you were to try to create this product 4 years ago, we would not be able to get this output.
What do you say to the same inspector? They're very concerned that it's going to take over their job.
Everybody is becoming better at doing their jobs by applying AI to the things that they didn't want to do in the first place. If you love coming back to your office and spending an hour creating a manual report, then sure. But if you love being in the field, talking to the people doing the job and observing things, then you should use AI because we're not trying to automate that part.
This is The Build Up, a podcast by Procon Consulting. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Q.
Maybe you can just give us a brief background introduction of yourself, and then we can get right to it.
Excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me. So, Himanshu Bari, co-founder, CEO of InstinctIQ. And I never thought I would do a company in the AEC space, but here I am. It's about 2.5 years. I don't know if you want to get into the whole background just yet.
I actually want to know the history leading up to how you got into the AEC more than anything else, because that intrigues me. So tell us a little bit about your background. I have a general sense, but...
Yeah. So, my journey, I engineer by training. I worked on Wall Street in tech for a couple of years at Goldman and Lehman, wrote code. Wow. Went to the West Coast because I always wanted to be on the cutting edge of tech and not be like the cost center of a company that is doing something else and uses tech as an enabler. Mm-hmm. So got my MBA from Berkeley and been doing product management at large tech companies for a few years. And being out there, it's hard not to get in the startup.
Oh, yeah.
So since then, I think I've done 5 different startups.
Holy moly.
So the last decade has been all startups. 2 out of them were close to $1 billion exits. So that was a lot of fun. And I reached a point where I realized the size of companies that I've been working at goes from large to small and small. Mm-hmm. And it was time where I felt like, hey, I want to do something and really start something on my own.
That's a good segue into AEC. Now, how did you, with all this background and experience, why AEC?
So I would say that I wasn't looking for a problem in the AEC space. Like I was saying, my background is data and analytics and large-scale data management. When the LLMs came about, one thing was clear that you could suddenly talk to any data in natural language.
You're using acronyms, and I know...
I would say just AI, right? Uh-huh. AI allows you to talk to your data in natural language, basically. And all my career, I built products processing large amount of data. So whenever you see a dashboard or any analytics, those are built using a lot of code. And it takes a lot of time to build those things and even more time to maintain and keep them up to date. So with AI, you could just, throw some data at the model and then start talking to it in the most simplest form. Right. So I figured, that has to have a good application in some industry. And the space that I come from, cybersecurity, data analytics, is very, very crowded already. There's a lot of people trying to do a lot of innovation in that space. So I was looking for a market that's a little less crowded in a way, right? And a little less pursued by technologists. And that's how I came across this problem. And we started in the scheduling world. So our first product was scheduling analytics.
How did you, construction, that's one thing to say, it's less crowded. That's sort of the way that you discovered construction industry. But now something even more specific, scheduling. I'm just curious, how did you stumble into scheduling?
So I would say that, I didn't...
Were you bored? Were you I'm done. No, I just exited. I can't be waking up every morning and playing golf or whatever. It's like...
I wasn't there yet, but I think for me what happened was I was looking for a right problem to apply AI to. And somebody I knew They actually are an entrepreneur themselves. They started a company in the scheduling space.
Okay.
And I messaged my co-founder, Atul, saying, hey, you know what, you should take a look at this company. And his response to me was like, great, but we don't create schedules and Oracle has a lock on that market. I have different problems to solve.
Oracle, Primavera.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. And he's like, hey, I have different problems that I'm dealing with. We are a PMCM firm. We are way behind in the adoption of technology. Okay. So that's how we got started.
Tell me a little bit about this product that you're working on.
Yeah, so overall, when I started discussing with Atul, it was clear that overall the PMCM business is a laggard in adoption of technology. So when we looked at a typical PMCM firm, there were a lot of different functions that could use AI and benefit from it. But at that time, what we saw was when it came to scheduling, it was very difficult for a non-scheduler to understand what happens in a schedule because all the tooling and the products in the market, they were all largely built around schedulers for them to make sense of a schedule. And if you're a non-scheduler, an executive who simply needs to know where is the project and what's happening in the next 3 weeks, then you couldn't get that because you had to go open a dashboard, click on 5 different places, or call somebody, email somebody. And that felt like a perfect application of AI. Like, hey, what if you could put AI on top of your schedule and talk to your schedule in natural language?
No, that's precisely correct. I mean, my first job was a scheduler. I was a scheduler one.
There you go.
From Jacobs years ago. But when you think about scheduling in the construction industry, if you're an executive, you typically would ask a scheduler, like you would ask a butler or something. It's like, hey, can you tell me what the schedule shows? Because the schedule is such a complicated tool that you actually need to know how to maneuver around it, but yet you're asking basic questions like, where are we with the schedule? What's delayed? What are the critical lead times that I should be aware of? And so you end up actually using a person that actually has to do the analysis in a database. And so that I can see how that's one of the like low-hanging fruits in our industry to kind of tackle.
Yeah, no, and I think, and then especially as the schedules go bigger and month over month when they change and you have to know what changed, those things become really complicated to analyze. So there were products in the market that were built on like simple dashboards that show the changes, but even so harder for a non-scheduler to consume because typically anytime you look at a dashboard, you always have follow-up questions. Like you're saying, hey, 5 new activities got added. Well, now tell me which are those activities, right? When are they going to start? And are those activities delayed? So those follow-up question upon question, you just can't have one static dashboard answer those. So that's why we started with scheduling as the first product.
And Atul is a good friend of mine, and we had him on the show as well.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to see that the two of you connected to start this company.
Yes, that's right. It's been great, but it's been a journey. That's where we started. And as it often happens, when you uncover one problem, like you start uncovering other problems around it, and then you got to navigate that process to figure out like how would you bring all of these things together and where is it that you want to focus on.
What was it like as you entered into the AEC market? You know, somebody coming from technology, multiple startups, IT, cybersecurity background, big data analytic background. What was that like?
I think that's a great question. The first thing was slow down, right? I had to kind of unlearn the pace, if you may, that I'm used to in the technology space and selling to the tech buyer versus an AEC buyer. It's a very different pace. That was the first thing, just slow down and then understand why it is slow. I think that's a more important point. And it's not like just people don't like to adopt technology, right? There is various different reasons why it moves a little bit slower than other markets. So trying to understand why technology has not been so widely used in the PMCM world, especially.
In your, is that true? Like 2.5 years of experience in being in this space. Can you talk a little bit about what the opportunities that you see?
Yeah, I think before AI, most software products were just, like digital screens.
Yeah, static,
you
digital.
You input something there. And many a times, like the benefit from having yet another form in your putting things is not apparent, because for the person in the field or working, like it just takes the same amount of time doing something on their phone or their notepad and then turning the notes in, their job is done. So the software itself was not, I think, at a point where the ROI, and I'm not talking monetary ROI, right? Just personal ROI and how much effort it takes to learn some new tool, it didn't align. And because of AI, though, I feel like two things. One is the technology can be materially better, that for a project manager or somebody in marketing or finance in the PMCM world, they can get tech that is really absolutely closely aligned to exactly what they need to accomplish. And that tech can accomplish a lot of it, especially the grunt work part of it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of grunt work. Like what kind of grunt work? So you're saying inspector out in the field, there's a lot of static images, file uploads, typing up stuff. These are the type of grunt work you're talking about, right?
Yes.
And how did you discover that? Like somebody from the outside deciding to go into project scheduling, and then there were many steps that took you into this world of construction, and now you're in this inspector world, which is a good opportunity to talk about this, your second company. But how did you stumble into that world?
Yeah, so when I started with scheduling, and one of the problems that it exists for any schedule is just to keep it up to date, because there's people sitting in the office managing the schedule, and there's people out in the field who do things, and those activities and things are completely disconnected from the master schedule. There is that last mile schedule that exists, that somebody keeps on collating and updating into a master schedule. So that process of getting what's happening in the field into the actual schedule is where the loss of translation of data and loss of fidelity happens in a way. So I was like, hey, can this process be improved? So that's how I started down that part. And whatever existed was just, again, digital forms. You can bring up a form and start entering stuff manually and start just taking a picture manually and then putting that in there. But it still doesn't accomplish anything, because that form will just go sit somewhere. And in many instances I saw, every single owner has their own different ways in which they want to consume the data. There is no universal form. The basic information around activities and progress, they are the same, but how they want it, what format they want it, it's different. And they are not digital yet. It's just a word format, right? So this goes into your second startup in the AEC space. Is that correct? It's the same startup,
it's the second product within the same. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so then we realized that, again, AI can dramatically simplify this process. And instead of just working inside out, like, hey, let's create a form that is a digital and so on, we worked outside in. So we started from the output that anybody in the field, like an inspector or a construction manager, needs to produce, which would be what's a document that you need to submit to the owner.
Right. So what report was that?
It was a daily report.
Daily report. So you're here to tackle daily report, the old daily report that everybody has to fill out.
Correct. It was an old daily report, and everyone I talked to, at some point, they have a story how they had to do a daily report, and it's never a good one. Like they remember the bad parts of coming back into the office, spending a half an hour to an hour every day, collating all the notes, formatting them, and then sending it and filing it somewhere, be it in a PMIS or sending it to the owner.
And tell me a little bit about what you've observed about the typical inspector, their savviness with technology. What are they doing?
Yeah, so it just turns out the first user that I worked with was somebody who has 50 plus years of experience in the field, right? So he was set in his ways, doing things the way he was doing. And when I spoke to him, he's like, hey, you know what? I've seen many of these digital forms. I don't want to do it. Nothing ever created what I wanted, because every time I have to produce a different format for a different project. So they were set in their ways, but when they saw that now with technology, they simply just record their voice and take pictures. That's all. Like, they're not digitally filling out a bunch of forms and all the heavy lifting of converting all that data in a format, putting it in tables, extracting trades out of it, and number of workers and all of that is done by AI. I think that was a key change. And
so your tool, you encountered 50 years of experience. I've heard it all. I don't want to do another tool. I have a good system going, and that's the audience that you're developing this tool for.
I would say if you can win that audience, you can win any audience.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
Because
so how were you able to? Were you able to win that audience?
Oh yeah, that is our first testimonial actually. So I'm very proud of that process, and he loves the product and he uses it every single day.
Okay.
He has my phone number.
Tell me the day, just in a nutshell. What is he doing?
So yeah, he's creating the daily report. But what he likes about it, because now he can actually focus on what's happening in the field.
Right.
Spend more time in the field. Get more detailed. He doesn't have to forget. He doesn't forget stuff because he's just recording it in the moment. He doesn't have to spend time typing up notes.
Is he talking on a notepad or is he talking on
He has
an
app. He just simply talks into the app and short snippets as he records, not a long one. Like as he sees things, he records various different audio snippets.
Not to say you're a construction expert, but what would he normally say? Would he say like, hey, this HVAC unit is being installed on the rooftop, second floor.
Yeah.
Ceiling tiles are being installed, and these are the visuals that I'm seeing. Like, what
Correct.
kind of?
I think he just speaks names of people, names of trades, and just. I think the key is he's not changing what he's recording for the app. He's literally just speaking what he wants the owner or anybody who consumes a report to know and report. And he speaks names, he speaks of trades and equipment, and the AI is able to understand all of that and extract all the right information from it.
That's great.
So,
I mean, so I know that when you speak to it, it's the best thing because it avoids typing.
Yeah.
I find it just is able to correct even words by just synthesizing and reading between the lines type of deal.
Yes, that's right. So that is the technology leap that was not there before. Like if you were to try to create this product 4 years ago, we would not be able to get this output from it. And that goes back yet another tool with a digital form. Why, right? Like I think nobody would adopt it. But now you can actually get to the final output, and that's the main difference.
So you've made someone with almost 50 years of experience. Did you say 50 or 30?
I think I was saying 30, but he said 50, and 50, I believe him because he is.
You've made somebody who's done this 50 years really happy. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
So where do you see this product going? Because obviously right now you're coming from the outside, coming into this industry, and you're tackling sort of these low-hanging fruits. Like, okay, these are the things that I see can just, right now, we can just do it. It's simple, it's easy, but what's next?
So, in my mind, where InstinctIQ will go next is create an automation platform for a PMCM company.
Okay.
And we have the scheduling, we have inspection, we are working on
estimating
for recruiters. Just resume search, pursuits, the top line of PMCM firms. So automating discovery of pursuits. So nobody has to sit and click through 5 different sites, 10 different filters, 2 times a week, collect all those RFPs, collate information. AI can go get all that data, automatically rank it, score it, create your first draft proposal, right? So save you all that grunt work.
Proposals, resumes. So you want it to be the engine behind PMCM firms.
Yes, like basically remove the grunt work for.
So how did you come up with Instinct?
InstinctIQ, the name.
Yes, InstinctIQ.
Yeah, so it was back to talking to your data. So it's so we wanted it to be more like just ask your questions, ask instinctive questions, what come to your mind, and not have to worry about the software, and make it easy to use it.
So what do you say to the same inspector that you haven't won over yet, and they're very concerned that it's going to take over their job?
Yeah, this discussion of taking over the job is, I would say, not just inspectors. Right? Anybody who has a white collar job, including me, I feel like if you're somebody creating products, writing code, doing anything in the office, you're worried that AI is going to take your job. And I would say at the end of the day, I don't think anyone has seen the future 5-10 years from now on how things will play out. But the way I see it right now is three things I would say. One, everybody's adopting. AI has been here for 3 years now. Everybody is becoming better at doing their jobs by applying AI to the things that they didn't want to do in the first place, right? So that's the part, right? For the inspector, hey, if you love coming back to your office and spending an hour creating a manual report, then sure, right? But if you love being in the field, talking to the people doing the job and observing things, then you should use AI because we're not trying to automate that part. So that's one. The second thing is, I think we all need, and coming from tech, again, I was used to change a lot. In tech, you cannot survive if you're not used to change. But in now, certainly every single function somehow is experiencing that change, right? The kinds of tools and how you work. So if you embrace the change, then naturally you will grow through that process.
Do you feel like the industry is starting to embrace that change?
I think yes. I think like if you look around, even in your company, I'm sure like everybody's using AI one way or the other. Right?
They
all use AI for a bunch of different things. So yes, it is already
it's
changed.
giving you superhuman powers.
It is, right? So this is the first time I feel like in the history of any tech where if you look at a typical enterprise, instead of the enterprise pushing tech down to their employees, the employees have already adopted it.
Right.
And the enterprise has to figure out how to kind of make it into a process and formalize that whole thing, right? So the change has already happened.
I'm totally in agreement. AI, you could, hop on this train or watch it go by, because it's happening. People are using it, and people are having, superhuman capabilities to tackle a lot of different things and containing a lot, absorbing a lot of information and doing a lot of different multitasking. But do you see any risks of the movement that's happening?
Yes. Anytime there is a new tech and we go through that process of such rapid adoption, there is definitely risk.
What do you see in the construction industry? What would be like a responsible way of using AI?
I think relying blindly on AI results has traditionally always been one of the things that people have said, hey, don't rely on it blindly. It's like, if you sit in a Tesla and autopilot, they can tell you don't
fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep. But guess what? Everybody will still do it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with AI.
Don't fall asleep on AI.
Yeah, you can tell people that, hey, you know analogy. What? You shouldn't trust AI, but I'll tell you what, like everybody trusts it. Once you get 5 times out of 6, you get great results.
Yeah.
Your brain is naturally trained to just blindly trust it. So I think the way to reduce the risk is to figure out how to talk to AI to reduce that risk, right? So instead of asking it like direct leading questions, always make it do the more thinking for you, make it more objective.
Right.
So you reduce the risk. It is going to be interesting. And we will, I think more importantly, we will learn to live with it and use it for the best outcome. That's the key. So,
what is your general sense about AI at the moment? Overhyped, underhyped? Are we on a bubble? Or we still have more room to grow?
If I would know that answer, I would buy the stocks that are the right ones and make a lot of money. But no, I think this always happens. Are we overhyping it? Of course we are, right? But like anything that is new and exciting that has so much promise is, by definition, it is going to get overhyped. Yeah. So yes, we are overhyping it, but so what, right? Like it needs to be, because there is all this potential. Like you got to try out. Like when we say in a company, right? Like you make decisions, but as long as you're not afraid of failure and you can adapt quickly, then that's great. Like go make the decisions, right? It's the same thing with AI. Is it going to be some things that get corrected and you're going to fail? Yes, 100% for sure. But doesn't mean that you don't do it, right? So.
Okay. I feel like we can spend hours on it. We're gonna move on. and just talk a little bit about going back to just your perspective entering into the space and why you think the industry is so behind. Yeah, what is your thesis?
So I'm sure you know a lot more about this, having
No,
done this for
I think your
so many
perspective
years.
is so much more important.
Yeah,
I'm the same old, talking points, and so I'd like to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, no, I will share my observation so far. There's been two reasons. One is the incentives that a PMCM firm has with respect to when it inserts technology in the life cycle of a project and for what reasons. So that's, and we can talk about that.
Can we talk about what do you mean when
Yeah.
you say incentives?
In my understanding, oftentimes, like a PMCM company wins a project for an owner and they are selected to represent the owner. It is decided whatever they're going to get paid for that project and what is expected off of them. And their goal is to execute and have the right interests of the owner in mind in that process. And the people that they put on the problem are their most important asset in a way. As long as the owner is happy, the PMCM company is doing their job, right? So from the owner's perspective, it doesn't really matter how the PMCM firm is operating and how they get to do what they do.
Okay.
So to me, I think that is one part where if you look at a contractor, if they don't, sometimes they don't adopt technology, it has direct implications on their margins.
Mm-hmm.
For a PMCM firm, in many instances, if they don't adopt technology, it has implications on the customer satisfaction potentially, right? The owner satisfaction, but not direct implications on the margin of the company because they have already signed up for whatever.
They've already signed up. They've already getting their profit. In fact, you could even argue, which is really a problem in the engineering industry, if you are billing on a time and material contracts, the incentives are the exact opposite. It's counter incentivized. Is that even a word?
Yeah.
It goes against any incentives because you are charging less hours if you have innovation and technology to do things quicker and faster and more efficiently.
Yes. So that was one realization.
That's interesting.
And we'll talk more about that part and why this time around it can be different. The other part was, I think, technology itself. If you look at the folks working in the AEC space, most of them are not tech savvy. If you're not a tech savvy person and you're used to doing things a certain way and you're really good at it, the owner is happy, then why change, right?
So who do you think has to be the driving force behind this change? If you're saying, which I would agree to some degree, that the incentives aren't necessarily there for PMCM firms. The incentives aren't necessarily there for construction companies that largely wins a project and then the margins are set. Like, why spend more money?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance that you may not capture that margin. It's taking big risks. So who needs to be the one driving these changes?
I think it has to be the PMCM firm, and it does require a shift in thinking, and nobody changes their mindset because, hey, they just want to do something differently, right? Like does go back to, again, what's their main goal, right? Customer satisfaction on the owner side, winning more owner business, and then also making sure that, like, when it comes to the incentives, right? Like, what is it for the firm, their top line or their final profit, that can get impacted and improved by the use of technology.
Okay.
So I think the way a lot of these tech firms and traditionally startups operate, like most of them, like most successful startups are VC funded. And there's a playbook. There's a playbook that you got to adopt in order to go and become a successful technology startup. I question that in PMCM world. Like, I feel like in the PMCM world, maybe it's time for a
more VC model,
a non-VC model almost sometimes, right? So, like, how about PMCM companies come together and almost fund a startup together,
right?
Because if that thing succeeds, they all succeed and benefit from it.
Can you talk a little bit about that startup model for many of the audiences that may not know or have that familiarity?
Yeah.
Like, what is that model like? Borrow until you can...
No, so I think the simplest thing with a startup, and I'm talking technology startups, is that there are various different functions where you have to invest as the company goes through the various life stages.
Right.
So in early stages, it's just product development because you got to do R&D, hire engineers, find the right product that fits the right market. So there is that first investment required in that case. And then it is growth investment to scale the startup. If it is more GTM, like go and find more customers, make it repeatable, and sales and marketing gets more and more investment along with R&D. You do continued R&D, but both catch up. So that is the traditional model. And many a times, like in most startups' journey, you got to invest ahead before you get the returns.
Right.
In the last few years, this model has become a little bit more prevalent where you do find companies who are actually cash flow positive potentially before even they want to go after VCs. But before 2022 or 2021, I would say if you were to go to a VC and say, look, you know what, my goal is to become cash flow positive first, they would say, look, you're not thinking big enough and fast enough. You're going to be just slow. I don't think that is the case anymore. Like especially with AI, you can actually build companies that are cash flow positive, that are profitable, and wait before you take outside capital. But yeah, in short, the startup model has always required you to raise money and then invest
very
forward.
capital intensive at the start.
Yeah, at the start before you hit a certain revenue run rate. But because of that, what happens is that it's the founders and the employees and the VCs that own stake in the company. And then if you have to go and tackle a market like PMCM, where there is no immediate incentive for the company to adopt that tech because there just isn't, then it becomes a tough sell, right? So that's why I question the model where like, hey, if you have to go after this space, you got to figure out for a company where you could actually align more PMCM firms to have immediate and direct stake into the company.
So you think a lot of the PMCM firms should collectively get together and fund?
Yes, I mean, because it has two benefits. One is, yes, there will be for that collective of the firms that have investment in that startup or a set of startups, they benefit from it. That's one. Plus, the other thing that I realize in this space is everybody knows everybody in the PMCM side.
Yes, that is true.
And it's almost like they compete and collaborate at the same time. So word travels fast and there is trust from like, hey, if something is working in one company, then yes, 5 other people will be ready to use it because they all are benefiting. One person is benefiting from it. So that aspect also works better if you have more PMCM firms collaborating together.
Do you feel like the market is getting crowded, or do you think the market is still ripe for people to come in and start disrupting?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot more entrepreneurs in the AEC space, and because anyone can actually do vibe coding and create their own applications. So I expect a lot more people, even within AEC, creating applications themselves. But the whole sort of mechanics of a company are also changing. Like you don't necessarily need to hire a lot of people up front and have a lot of upfront cost to scale your company. So because of that, I think at least initially now we will see a lot of small companies in the AEC space who are all doing relatively well, successful, have a certain set of customers addressing them. And then eventually we will see how things evolve. But for sure, because of the way technology is right now, we will see a lot more people building smaller companies.
That's great. What has been your experience so far? Just, what's been working? What do you find challenging?
Yeah, so what's been increasingly working and easier is building products and getting to iterate faster is easier. What takes time and more challenging is GTM and making something work at scale.
What is GTM?
Is going to market with the product.
Going to market, okay.
So that is even more challenging in the construction vertical because there is just so much micro segments. There's so much customization just from one type of customers to another because their process is just a little bit different. So doing
So do you feel like the standardization needs to come first before going to market, or do you just go to market and like?
So yeah, I think if you were building a startup, maybe even 2 years from now, before, you would just figure out what is the standard product before you try to scale it. But now, because of AI, because the first thing that got disrupted by AI is software development, as you know it, because of how quick it is to adopt and change your product. I would say that you should go to market faster and go find the customers faster, and don't be shy to customize things for different customers, because that it in itself might be the product, right? Like that's your differentiation, that you can create something that just does exactly what that customer wants to do, but you can do that at scale, versus that was not possible until now.
There's so much to tackle in our industry, and like here you are doing a startup, and I was talking to someone the other day, and we were just talking like for example, if an automobile was built the same way that we build construction projects, that automobile would be 10 times the cost of what it is today.
Yeah.
It's just an automobile has had years of evolving where they've controlled environments and in a manufacturing setting, and they've trimmed every fat as you can in the process. And now you can go to, get a Honda Accord for like $30,000, $40,000, and so I just want to know, what is your general sense on that?
Man, I don't know where the construction industry will be in the next 5 to 10 years, but I can try to attempt drawing parallels between what I've seen outside of the construction industry, which is, I think increasingly there will be more and more standardization potentially in right now, like if you build some panel, there's standardization at the panel level or the switch level.
Right.
So why does everything, in the residential vertical, I guess there's a lot of standardization.
There's so many people,
But in other places, there is not enough. So I do expect that absolutely to get more and more standardized. So things become more and more repeatable. Going back to your analogy on automobiles, like it's the same thing, I think. If you sit into an older car right now, you will see all these switches everywhere, right? Like, why do you need all that?
Right.
But now if you sit in a newer car, especially EV cars, they will soon start all looking the same because it's just a screen, right? There's a little bit of a layout customization, but they all look the same. So I imagine there is some level of that potentially will absolutely happen in the non-residential area of construction. And how a startup like ours basically tackle that I don't know right now. But what I know is, you have to adapt. Like that's the definition of a startup, is we will adapt as things change in construction.
What about AI and robotics kind of merging together? What is your thought in maybe specifically in the construction management space, but you can also expand more broadly in the construction space?
I'm not a robotics expert, but from what I have seen from the outside, you can absolutely ask the questions around like, hey, why isn't a robot walking around the job and a drone flying around and taking pictures and doing all that and creating all the data that you need?
But that would scare some of the inspectors.
So, but forget the robots, right? Like drones have been here for a while, and you could use them and you could put them in the job site, but still humans are still required to do oversight and still collect the right set of information, guide that technology, and then produce information in a format that is easily consumable. So I think the right medium is for robots and technology and humans to coexist in the job site. Potentially, one inspector might be able to do a lot more than what they were able to do before with the help of technology.
Maybe process even more.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So what about like image recognition? When I use ChatGPT and I would just take images of something, it knows that this is a cabinet, you're in a kitchen, you're this and that. And so what do you see? Again, you come from the data analytics standpoint, but data is also image.
Yeah.
And knowing what it is, do you see the future of AI, robotics, data processing, where people or robots or machines going around imaging and synthesizing what's happening and fully integrating with schedule, progress, et cetera, quality, just taking an inventory of all the things and corrective actions that needs to take place and then just doing it just like that.
Potentially, image recognition is something that absolutely will require a lot more specific work and dedicated small custom models developed for that particular problem space. Right now, you can put a construction image to any of the available AI models, and they will do a great job in describing it. But if you have to get precise about, like, hey, the drawing itself and what you see and how is that different from the drawing, then
it's not there. It's like 75%
the,
there,
the
but
genetic
you need to be more.
models are not there.
Right.
You need to train a custom model using a custom data set for that. But that's where it is headed.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, because that's to me is the final end product, like that I see in the PMCM space.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't think that it will replace people. It'll just allow us to synthesize more and produce accurate information for what we talked about earlier, like better decision making.
Yes, I think the process of decision making and working with the owners and managing that relationship and knowing what to do next, right? Like, you're not, unless it's
what are
only
some
robots.
Options? Right. So you need the ability to understand what the options and the implications of some decisions are. So it's like, help me understand the data that we have here.
Yes.
And what are the options that we can take? And every decision you make has the pros and the cons, like pro-con.
Yeah.
I also think that AI can vastly improve what we currently are experiencing in the labor shortage. We have a lack of labor in terms of engineers, skilled laborers. And I think that AI to some degree is going to help mitigate that. Do you have any thoughts, any comments on that?
Yeah, I will draw some parallels to other markets, right? I think in the technology in the industry, when cloud first came about, a lot of people got scared that, hey, you're not going to need any data centers and, we don't need machines.
You need more
whatnot,
data centers,
right?
now.
But I think typically what happens is you just need more and more of it. Even with AI, software engineers should be the number one scared sort of labor category, right? Because AI just writes code.
Right.
But guess what? You actually need more of them because they can do a lot more. What they have to do is a little bit different. They are no longer just writing the same repetitive stuff. So it's the exact same way I think it's going to play out in the construction vertical as well. The CMs, PMs, folks in the field, they will do things that they are best at. And they will do a lot more of it across many more projects because they are not spending time doing paperwork anymore.
Right. It's the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundant mindset, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Can I talk a little bit about I just love your story, and I want to get into it a little bit more about your entrepreneurial experiences, and you've started in IT, you've done a lot of startups. Now you're tackling, I think, a big behemoth, big monster. This is one of the biggest and the greatest industry of all times, construction industry. I mean, you've done 5 startups, you said?
I think so.
Yeah,
more than that.
in 10 years?
Yeah.
10 plus years?
Yes.
And so I know the audience would be intrigued on what has that experience been like? Has anything ever prepared you for an experience like that?
No, and I think when you do one, and you start working at another startup, you expect that, hey, you know what, I've been through this journey, so it's going to be similar. But nothing every single journey is very different. You can only take the learnings from one place. And in my case, I always jumped from one market to another. So I did cybersecurity for a while, then I did large-scale data management. I did digital identity and fraud prevention. So every few years, I would take myself, whatever I learned, throw it out of the window from a market standpoint, and then go in a completely different market. And I realized that process itself was a great educator because the tools and the way you apply yourself environment that you're not used to, in a market that you're not used to. It's an awesome experience because that prepares you to go in and enter any space that you have no idea about, and then gives you the right frameworks that you can actually go and operate in that market.
Now, did you always know at a young age that you were this is the area that you were going to pursue? Like, what was that like?
I didn't know. It was something that I always wanted to do. When I was applying to Berkeley, they always make you write an essay, right? Like, hey, what do you want to do in your career? So I did actually write that. Hey, I love building products. Yeah, I want to work at startups and someday start my own company. So I wanted to do it, but I didn't know whether I would be able to do that or not. I feel like everybody's, there's a lot of things that need to come together.
Like what
life,
things?
finances,
Life, okay.
technology, where you are at with respect to what you want to work on. There's a lot of things that need to align for you to actually make that move.
What do you think really prepared you the most, that helped you through all your periods of time during your startup days?
Like I was saying, the aspect where I intentionally put myself in very uncomfortable situation. Every few years, leaving a market where you've gained some success and experience and then joining some other company that's doing something completely different. It's a very unsettling experience because you got to unlearn a lot of things and learn new things. And having done that a few times, I feel like that has been the most important thing that gave me the confidence to like jump into AEC that I had no clue about, right? And start operating in that space. So,
what was like your most rewarding startup?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the company I worked at right before I started InstinctIQ was my most rewarding experience because it was almost like everything that I learned all across my career put together. I built a team from scratch. We grew revenues 4x from under 10 million to 50 plus million in my time over there. And building the team, building the product, and seeing the company grow through that process was really rewarding.
It's interesting you say that everything all your experiences led you to this one moment. Do you feel like in your progression in your career, everything feels that way? Because I have that same feeling, like everything I've done for whatever reason has prepared me for today. And I don't know, I was just intrigued with your statement.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you asked the question rewarding, so I mentioned that, but I feel like more than the rewarding part, it's the learning part that prepares you for doing something like this. And those are often moments where things didn't expect turn out the way you expected them to be. So, working at startups and going through the process, there is a lot of those times when, hey, you try to do something and it doesn't work out that way, and you learn from that process and move on.
I mean, being an entrepreneur is one of those things that it requires you to really step out of your comfort zone, do things that you've never done before. No one's taught me what it takes to actually run a company, build a business. And quite honestly, I don't think a classroom setting can teach you that.
Yeah, oh, sure. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they can give you the framework, which I think expedites your learning experience, which if I had some framework like that, it would have helped me for sure. There's no question. But nothing ever prepares you for what it really means to build a business, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think the framework plus they potentially give you the tools that you can draw upon when you're faced with the situation. But hey, sometimes you throw everything that you learned in school out of the window and then make a decision that if you were sitting in a classroom, they would say, no. But then they don't know the context, right?
You gotta
don't know the
sometimes,
context.
I think running a company has more to do with decision making, because I feel like if I look back on the company here at Procon, decisions have consequences and accepting them. And then sometimes you make the wrong decision and you got to quickly make corrections and recover.
Oh, 100%. I think, but that's the key though. I feel like, if you create a culture where it's not about always just making the right decision,
right?
But it's like, hey, you can fail. And it's more about how you recover from that and learn from that.
Accountability.
And that, I think, then you have people really putting their best out. Otherwise,
Yeah.
people are just scared.
I feel like we're coming to an end here, and I know that people out there would benefit from some advice that you might give, having started multiple businesses and now you're in it again. First of all, I find that highly very honorable and respectful that you want to continually improve things and provide value to just in what you do. And so any advice that you would give to anyone young or anyone that wants to start a company or just general advice?
Yeah, when I tell my friends that I'm doing a startup at this stage in my life, they all get very excited. But sometimes I read in their comments that, hey, this is great for you, but not for me. More power to you, but I wouldn't do it. So I think at the end of the day, you got to dig deep and figure out what is it that you find pleasure and excitement and reward from. If you are looking to build a startup because, hey, at someday, you're going to sell it and make a lot of money, then please don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Because you will not last through the journey of getting to that point. You have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy the process of failing because there will be a lot of setbacks. And you have to enjoy the process of learning from those failures and that feeling that you get like, hey, you know what? I didn't get this right, but then I corrected and now this is working better. If you find pleasure in those small wins, then I think you will be able to go through that journey yourself. And you should put yourself in a position where you can survive when things are not going well with the company. I think if you are in a situation in life where, hey, you know what, if something doesn't go well with this company, then you cannot sustain your family, then it's a hard process to do, especially later on in the life. If you're 20 something, then great, like you have less responsibilities.
Well, Himanshu, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I want to give you the last words, maybe plug in about your firm, what you do, and what you're passionate about. So I'll just turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Q, for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here. I've watched a lot of these podcasts of yours and glad to share my story. InstinctIQ is on a great trajectory. We are building a lot of tools to automate various different functions within a PMCM company, from marketing to finance to even things like CMMC certification.
Resume search as well.
If you have a AI problem that you need help with, reach out and we'll be happy to have a chat. And more than that, I will say make yourself uncomfortable. This whole new world of AI is new to a lot of you folks in the AEC space, and don't be scared. Try it out, and more likely than not, you'll be surprised by what you can accomplish, and you'll never look back.
Well, thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.